Thank you so much for being part of our conversation today. I'm Dr. Kecia Ray, and I am doing a series with the wonderful HMH to really explore how districts are integrating AI and thinking about AI in their day-to-day practices. And I am more than honored to bring my amazing friends and former colleagues from ABC School District to the table today, so to speak, to have this conversation. So let's go around and introduce everyone in the room. Let's start with Mike Lauren.
Good to see you, Dr. Ray. I'm Mike Lawrence. I'm Director of Information and Technology here at ABC Unified School District. Just started, however, so I will hand it off to the guy that started the AI work here in ABC, Mr. Laines.
And I'm Mr. Laines, or Chad Laines, and I am the instructional technology specialist here. Prior, I worked at the middle school at the academy for 33 years as a middle school history teacher.
And he won the History Day competitions for California for that team several times.
Sometimes I left a full year winning streak of state participants, LA County champion state participants, and 3 of our teams made it all the way to the University of Maryland. So that was sort of my passion.
Oh, my goodness. We've got a celebrity in the room. I feel like you should have gone to DC at some point for that.
Yeah, actually, when you're at the University of Maryland, you're just at 20-minute cab ride to DC.
Yeah. I used to work at the University of Maryland a million years. So
we're having Dr. Ray.
Listen, that is the question of the century right here. And I'm going to leave that on my epitaph. I invite people to leave where they think I hadn't worked. That will be a shorter list.
Is it my thing, just to match Mr. Laines here, is that I'm known as the Kecia Whisperer on Sam Strickle?
It's true. It's true.
We'll leave that there.
In the ed tech universe, that's Mike Lawrence's job. We're going to talk about how you have approached integrating AI into your district. When I visited your district, I was blown away by the process that you used to invite the community in to the process of adopting AI. So can you kind of explain for our listeners what that process was and how you went about it?
Sure. Well, I would take a few steps back. So this is prior to Mike arriving, but we spent a lot of time developing a guidance booklet. We just called it a booklet. It's just guidance. It is not a mandate. It's not policy. I wanted the emphasis always to be human intelligence first, AI second. And we kind of branded that. This HI plus AI was the formula, but very intentional. Always HI plus AI. And in fact, when I do workshops with kids, I have them call and response, HI plus AI, and we review why it's so important that they are in charge and it's just a tool. So we got this document, doing workshops. We are getting our teachers excited about the possibilities of AI. And when Mike arrived, he's the one who brought up the question, well, have you involved your community partners? And at that point, it was always part of my plan, but it hadn't been executed yet. So Mike suggested we first take our AI guidance and put it publicly online, which we did, and solicit public comments. So people from teachers, parents, community members could all comment on the guidance policy. And then we sort of catapulted from there into what we called roundtables. So the public was invited to come to, we've had 5 of these sessions. They are open to the public, and we review our guidelines, our philosophies, our expectations as it relates to teachers and students. And it's really just an open forum. We have had some amazing engagement, and we have these scheduled quarterly. We have another one scheduled for November 7th. We started to involve student panels too. So we're getting their ideas and what their thoughts are about AI integration. Elaborate on a few.
They're meant to be quarterly roundtable. The next one, as you mentioned, is November 7th, and then we got February 12th and April 9th. It's all on our website. If you go to the ABC Unified website /AI, that will take you to where all of these guidance documents, resources, and the public comment, by the way, which we responded to. So here's one of the things I think we shared with you is that every single parent or staff or faculty member or administrator comment, we painstakingly went through and responded to let them know this is a valid concern that you have, or this is a valid emotional response. Here's our take on it. Here's where we plan to move forward with it. We never invalidated anyone's position or comment. It was an extraordinary exchange just used a Google form for them to give us those responses, and then published them with their permission anonymously, so that we would only say something like they're a parenting adult, or they're an administrator, or they're a teacher. We wouldn't share what school site they were from, but we wanted to make sure their voice was heard. That was part of the process, and it gave us really valid insights. And we made adjustments and made changes and built new resources based on the feedback, mostly from students and parents, I have to say, gave us the best. And I'll share one with you because I think it's really relevant. We hadn't fully considered the parental view of AI, and a parent spoke up quite clearly and said, thank you for having this roundtable. I need more information, how to talk to my student about AI, because to me, it just looks like cheating. And I don't know how to guide them. Can you offer some guidance on it? So we've done 2 workshops since then for parents as part of our district-wide expo. And we plan on having more of those opportunities. But that insight, that sort of perspective was shocking and exciting to me. And I panicked, and it hadn't yet occurred to me to think of it in that lens. So helpful to hear insightful perspectives like that. Another parent came up to us afterwards and said, thank you so much. I was prepared to come and yell at you all because you weren't embedding AI, you weren't preparing my child for AI. Here you are, way ahead of the game. We had that multiple times. Parents were coming ready to go and have their arguments ready about why we shouldn't stick our head in the sand and block it or ban it. And here we were on the opposite side saying, I think this is usable and helpful for us to prepare students with AI.
I think that when I talk about AI, I have this timetable that goes all the way back to the 50s when AI was really first introduced in the ecosystem of the world, right? With Eliza and Plato. And people don't know that history, and they don't realize that we've really had AI around for a good part of the 20th century, And
That's right. Livy was AI.
yeah, I mean, Siri, that people just don't think it's like, oh, that was a technology. Search engines, technically AI. So when we're calling foul sometimes on some of the generative AI, and I can understand the concern because it does start to bleed over, especially for creative. Like, I'm a writer, I've written books, and you've done a lot of creative stuff, and you're a musician, you draw, you've got a lot of creative stuff out there. So we get it from the creative side of the world. But at the same time, people that aren't naturally creative can be creative with the AI tools. And people, video editing is something that is super hard, but now with AI, it can be reasonably easy. So I think if you just kind of shift perspective and recognize it's been around for a really long time, and like any other technology tool, we adopt these tools to make life easier and more efficient for humans, right? And if it's easy for us, we're probably not going to invent a technology to do it. But if it's challenging for us, that's where time and energy is going to be spent. So I think helping kids see that too, and see that this is something that can shortcut. And it's kind of like, remember when calculators came out? This dates us all. But when calculators came out and people were like, I don't want you to use a calculator. No, you've got to do everything long, whatever, long math month. And you're like, but why? And they're like, well, we want you to know how to do it. I get that. But once I know and I've proven it, do I have to prove it over and over and over again? Or can I just know? Now, the reality is, if I stop doing the practice, I'm going to forget the practice. So I think, talk about that, like that fine line between building a kid's just intellect and their familiarity and mastery of concepts, and then giving them a tool that helps them shortcut that, and helping them understand like the value of the tool and the balance in using that tool.
So I'll jump in there. I think it's moving up Bloom's taxonomy, right? Instead of just rote memorization, your example of the calculator is spot on. Like, I know how to do long division. It's moving us higher up on that pyramid. So the example I go to as a former English teacher is, if I were still in the classroom, I'd give the students the prompt that I would have given them to write an essay to give to AI. And then they would get a result from AI, and I'd have them analyze that result. I'd have them work with AI to make that a better result. Is it good examples that they pulled from the novel? Did they make reasonable arguments? Did they miss a point that they really should have made to answer that prompt? And the students are now what they're doing. They certainly still have to know how to write an essay and what makes a good essay. Now they're also evaluating. That's higher up on Bloom's taxonomy. They're synthesizing. That's at the top, once was. And they're now starting to figure out how they can work with AI to improve a response to a prompt, which, oh, by the way, that's what they're going to be doing in life after school. I don't say real life, because if we do school right, it is real life. But it's what they will be doing the rest of their lives. And oh, by the way, they're going to be doing it with AI that is vastly more powerful, more ubiquitous, and has deeper depth of capabilities than this, teeny little baby AI they're working with today. It's going to be vastly more powerful. So I look at it as, you have to know not only how to write the essay and the grammar and the syntax involved, because you're now in the evaluative and synthesizing mode. So that's typically how I respond to arguments like that, which are valid and absolutely good concerns to have. Like, it's hard for me to remember my best friend's phone number right now because my phone remembers it for me. Do I know my son's phone number? No, but my phone has it. So yeah, it's a valid concern. I think we have ways as humans, to move beyond it. There's a quote about Plato saying this whole writing thing is forcing students to not memorize the information. Writing is terrible. We shouldn't be doing it. He was very much against this, very much against this new writing thing, because he argued against the detrimental effects it would have to being able to recall in the middle of a debate or a lecture that exact quote. But hey, if you have the writing available and you can call upon it, it's there forever. And so it's an interesting thing that is not new when thrown against new innovations or technology.
I'd like to add today, I'm hosting a workshop, and we had a discussion, and a fifth grade teacher was sharing with me a project that she does in October every year. It has students write a description for a monster, they're creating a monster. And she's really focusing on having them capture great detail. Every student writes it out, and they pair up, and another student will try to draw that image based on the description. The kids really work hard for the sensory, descriptive words. And then she said the next step was, I'm going to take their description and put it into a prompt, use an image generator. They used Adobe Express, and the results were disappointing to the students. There were limitations. I said, that's fantastic. So because we want our students to recognize that it is still that HI, that human intelligence. There are limitations. They worked on the iterations, but we want to continue to always celebrate that student voice. It's about growth. It's about voice. It's not about perfection. And I just think that was a beautiful lesson to begin with, and an unexpected, even more beautiful result to have the opportunity to have that discussion.
That does sound like a fantastic lesson. I would love to see some of the outcomes of that.
Just the both. So she'll host the students' work, original work, next to the AI work with the reflection
Oh,
within. So
that's
awesome.
fantastic. Then.
Yeah.
I think one thing when I do think about our students and kind of, if you think about the students that we're teaching today in 20 years, it's going to, this particular technology has really moved faster than some of the other technologies. If you look at the timeline, I mean, it's accelerated much faster. And so not only with the rate of adoption, but with the rate of iteration and improvement that has occurred. Once we hit to the Chat GPT era, I do think there's
Let down, which called it. And people listening involved.
I've been practicing. I think that there will need, we talked about digital literacy. AI, I think, is a part of something that needs to be woven into digital literacy. But I also am not sure that we have done a very good job in schools with the digital literacy.
Yeah. It's foundational.
It's super hard for me to say that because we try so hard, but it's so much a part of their DNA that they believe because they were born in an era where there's so much technology that they don't need to, like, they're literate because they live it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how do we help our kids as they're on this journey through life with this technology accelerating at such a rate? How do we help them differentiate the AI and the HI part? And I say this, Chad, to your point of we always want them to kind of be aware. If you think about their use of social media, I honestly think some kids do not recognize one persona from another. Like they believe their social media self is who they are. So how do we reconcile that and make sure that we're doing the right thing by our kids?
I think we have always emphasized here that it's really important for our teachers to model the good. So you're going to model how you are using AI in the classroom to plan your lessons, to develop a rubric, whatever, and show the students how you used it, the iterations that it took, the mistakes that it made, and then you're also being transparent about it. You're not going to take AI out of the darkness. We're going to make it transparent so that when students use it, after the teacher has explicitly stated how it's going to be used, then they're going to be transparent in their use as well. So that's a portion of it.
Yeah.
That's not the end of it.
Well, and I draw examples as well. Like think about it in the sense of athletics. You could be a natural athlete, have natural talent to run quickly, to kick a ball, to throw a ball, whatever it is. But you have that raw talent that's been untrained. That's the value of a skilled coach to come alongside you and show you a technique or an approach so that you can run longer by not using up all your energy early in the marathon. My dad was a football coach, and he still, with very talented players, had very specific things to show them because they were unaware of what their bodies were capable of, even in an extraordinarily talented athlete. So I think, to your point of not really realizing the distinction between their social media persona and their real life persona, that's where a trained professional come alongside. And isn't it great that we have thousands of them spread across, proved in 20 or 30 per teacher already in classrooms? That's the benefit of these highly educated professionals, that if we do our job right, preparing them, they have the resources, not just for the curricular guidance and coaching that they've been trained for, but also in how to identify properly sourced resources, things that are, false or misleading, disinformation, misinformation. It again underscores the importance of it. And I agree with you that this is an absolute element of media information literacy, digital literacy. It's why we're deeply focused on Digital Citizenship Week last week and the broader month that this month is in October, to make sure that ABC Unified students are getting those resources, whether it be from library media technicians, teachers, administrators, everybody there, as it's widely important.
And just a little bit. So we talked about the importance of teachers and their modeling. And we had an opportunity to see this manifest in person. So one of our roundtables, we had a student panel. And on that student panel were students that are, one of their classes with Matt Johnson, who's been using AI and is extremely knowledgeable, extremely intelligent.
He teaches AI. There's these sections of AI that he's teaching. He's been teaching since 2019.
And he does a wonderful job, ethically responsible. But he was in the background. He wasn't part of this discussion. The panel discussion was 4 students up there. And the question was about how are you using AI? And one student said, I use AI to provide, he made a metaphor of a tree. It provides the roots, the foundation. Once I have that, then I can get creative and I can branch out. And I thought, oh my God, that's beautiful. Like I gave me the chills. And then another student said, I beg to differ. If any high school kids, he says, I use it differently. I have all these thoughts running around in my head. They're the branches that are all over the place. And AI helps me synthesize those, and it gives me the foundation. So when a teacher models properly, and the students are able to use it in a manner that they see is effective, but is respectful to the tool, then we have some amazing results.
And you do a tremendous amount of professional development at the district level for teachers to make sure that they have, because they can't all go to conferences and things. Talk about what you do as district leaders to make sure your teachers have the resources that they need and information they need to be good stewards for and good models for their students.
Chad will do the day-to-day local stuff. I'm going to do the one big event we do every year. So my predecessor set up a beautiful foundation called TIP, Technology Integration Program, and it's now in its 10th year. With that, he launched a tech symposium that the department would host every year for our teachers and administrators. In its 10th year now, we're going to expand it. It's going to be called Ignite EdTech Symposium. Our superintendent suggested that we open it up to local school districts, our county office, and others to attend as well. Ignite will be January 25th this year, and we're really excited, bringing in some keynote speakers and expanding it to include sponsors and vendor partners, and really contribute to EdTech in general, digital and media information literacy, as well as, of course, AI is going to be a huge topic. We're bringing in Jen Roberts, who's an English teacher that talks about AI, how as an English teacher, she uses AI to allow students to use it and to show them that, look, I can tell the difference as a teacher. We're bringing in Michael Hernandez, who's going to talk about unshieldable assessments. We're going to bring in Peter Reynolds to talk about creativity, the always popular Alice Keeler, just a whole bunch. I'd love to add Dr. Kecia Ray to the list. In any case, that's the one we're most excited about and I'm working on. And the day-to-day work is what Mr. Laines can speak to. We have 2 program specialists, Mr. Laines being one of them, and a instructional technology supervisor and these programs that he'll talk about.
So perfect segue. I am currently running a workshop. It's an all-day workshop with our tech integration program, technology specialists throughout the district. So we have one tech ambassador that comes to our district once every 2 months. And we have an all-day workshop.
One per site.
What did I say? What person?
You said one.
Oh, what per district? 1%. 1%. So they come in for an all-day workshop where we are talking about best practices. We have opportunities to share out. We are exploring platforms. We're talking about ethical implications with the intent that they take back the messages and the lessons learned here back to their campuses. Teach the teacher model, I think, is fantastic. And we are bolstering it this year by making sure that the principals at every one of these sites also is aware of the things that we are teaching, philosophies, the expectations. So now we have that bridge that connects. Additionally, we have tech assistants. There's 11 of them in the district, 10 of them in the district, and their job is to support the teachers in implementing technology. But one of the first things I did when I got in here is I told them that you are more than cords, wires, and Wi-Fi. You are going to also be an instructional partner. So everything that I teach my tech teacher leaders, I also teach our tech assistants. So now when they're in the classroom, if they sense a need or if they see somebody who's showing a little interest, before they get frustrated, they're there to support both instructionally and the technical aspect as well. So I'm really proud of both of those two groups. And I think that that's integral to what we're trying to do here at ABC.
Well, I'm proud of everything that you're doing at ABC, and I can't wait for people to hear this and to visit your website and see the resource that you've actually made available for anybody that's trying to grapple with how to integrate and adopt an AI policy into their system. And I look forward to following your journey and seeing where it goes and how profoundly brilliant your kids are going to be on the topic when they graduate from your district. Is there anything you want to add before we close that I haven't asked you or we haven't talked about?
Well, I would just add the one thing that I think we referenced but haven't dove into directly is the concept of AI and cheating. And our dear friend, Richard Coulard, who was looking at the recent Stanford study about cheating. And it is a problem, and it is a big problem that we as a society should work on. But I think it's unfair to sort of levy that problem onto the back of AI. It existed before generative AI. It exists after generative AI. And what the study report that he quoted so well, that I will not do nearly as well, was that when students freely admitted that they cheat in school, 70% of them. And then they did that study before the launch of generative AI. Then post launch of generative AI, they did the study again. They asked students, same sample size, and they said about 70% of them said they also cheat. And so the fact that that number didn't budge, I think, gives credence to the argument that, look, AI certainly is used to cheat, just as any technology, including pencil and paper, is used to cheat. That is a problem, but it didn't fall to technology alone to solve that problem. It's not something we should be trying to ban AI or do AI detectors. They are inherently flawed, we now know, and don't really resolve the issue. So the only thing I would add to your audience, to our conversation, would be that as a society, let's tackle that issue. There are cultural ways to address cheating. It's a big issue, and I'm not making light of it. Neither was Mr. Collada. But I think that to levy it against technology and AI specifically is unfair. So
I agree, and I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm also glad you brought up the AI readers because I myself was accused of, well, they don't call it cheating when you submit an article review, but they're like, you used AI to write this article. And I'm like, I did? At that time I was like, I don't think I did, but I mean, I was on the internet. I did search. So yeah. And what it found is in using the AI screener, I referenced some of my own work without citing it. So because I said it, I don't feel like, but I guess I should reference my work, right? But I said it in a paper, and in what I said in this article was close enough to that published paper that they felt like I had essentially plagiarized with my own stuff. So
there you sure.
Yeah. And I think that we also need to define cheating. And I say that because, once upon a time, a long time ago, when you did a dissertation, you had to do your dissertation alone this is how I did my dissertation, by myself with a question that had never been posed or answered before. And if you put a question up that had somewhere in the annals of science been reviewed, then they would come back to you and say, you can't do that. Somebody's done that in Timbuktu and you can't do it. To which I was like, well, how many times are we going to go through this? And then they came up with this idea that 5 or 6 people could work together and on a dissertation project, and that was going to be a dissertation. And I can remember vividly the fit that I pitched at Vanderbilt University when they brought this forward as a concept for our graduates to participate in. And today, that is a common way that doctoral students pursue degrees. They work in teams. In my day, I would have called that cheating.
Right.
Right?
What in the corporate world, it's called collaboration.
Exactly. So I think we as academicians need to really recalibrate cheating and
Yeah.
say what it is, redefine it in today's era, and put it and then write about it, put it out. If you do this, this is cheating. If you do this is collaboration. But really put a stake in the ground over what it is. Because I think when we use the word, a lot of our background knowledge is attached to it. And it is wide and varied. Because I can assure you, those people who've gone through graduate degrees and worked 5 or 6 on a project, they didn't the idea of them cheating would have never crossed their mind. So,
You have to start the conversation. You have to remove the taboo around AI. You can have conversation and to create that level of transparency. It goes
yes.
back to teachers and administration modeling, and then students then seeing that and then calling out themselves. Here's where I used AI in my assignment. And
Like it.
student embracing this and the encouragement support to do that, knowing that they're not going to be leveled accusation of cheating automatically. They need to call it out proactively.
Yep. Agreed. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for having it with me. Talk to you later.